Hey everyone, I'm Jim and I'm obsessed with movies, and welcome to the first superhero movie review on this channel. We're going to be starting off with a bang, starting off with DC, and it's going to be a look at, of course, the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, starting off with 2005's epic reinvention of the Batman franchise, Batman Begins. After the colossal failure of Batman and Robin back in 1997, people were pretty sick of the Caped Crusader, seeing him in his movies as a bad joke that needed to disappear. Batman and Robin director Joel Schumacher didn't want to give up that easily, however, and had a strong desire to make a third Batman movie entitled Batman Triumphant, or also known as Batman Unchained. To be fair to Joel, this movie actually sounded pretty darn good. Schumacher wanted to return to the darker roots and make a film in which George Clooney actually got a chance to show what he could do in the role. Important elements of Batman Triumphant included Jeff Goldblum being rumoured to play the Scarecrow, and Harley Quinn appearing as, wait for it, the Joker's daughter.
That wasn't easy to get over. Don't think that I didn't try.
Undoubtedly, the most appealing idea for Triumphant was to have Jack Nicholson reprise his role as the Joker, haunting Batman in a fear gas-induced vision. I'm sorry, but seeing Jack Nicholson come back as the Joker, that's enough for me to make the movie. I don't care if Joel Schumacher made George Clooney wear a tutu in the film, I'm still sold. In 1999, Warner Bros. Hired none other than Darren Aronofsky to write and direct Batman Year One, which was to be the fifth film in the Batman franchise. Aronofsky brought along Frank Miller to co-write Year One. Clint Eastwood was lined up to play Batman, however Warner Bros. Were not happy with the script due to the differences from the source material and did not greenlight the film. How did they have the guts to tell Clint Eastwood he wasn't going to be Batman?
Have some respect, Zipperhead.
In January 2003, Warner Bros. Hired Memento director Christopher Nolan to direct an untitled Batman film, and David S. Goyer signed on to write the script 2 months later. Christopher Nolan stated his intention to reinvent the film franchise by doing the origin story of the character, which is a story that's never been told before. Nolan said that humanity and realism would be the basis of the origin, and that the world of Batman is that of a grounded reality. It will be a recognisable, contemporary reality against which an extraordinary heroic figure arises. Goyer said that the goal of the film was to get the audience to care for both Batman and Bruce Wayne, as Nolan felt the previous films were exercises in style rather than drama. Chris, I know you're the man and everything, and I know you're amazing, but you diss Batman 89 again. You diss it again. You diss it again. And little Adam West will get you. Yeah, he may not look like much, but this little shit's my Chucky. Before shooting of the movie began, Christopher Nolan invited the whole film crew to a private screening of Blade Runner from 1982. And after the film he said to the whole crew, "We're going to make more of this. This is my vision for the future of Batman."
And there's plenty more where that came from.
A mere few days before the role of Batman was cast, 8 actors were asked to audition for the part. They were Christian Bale, Joshua Jackson, Ellen Bailey, Hugh Dancy, Billy Crudup, Cillian Murphy, Henry Cavill, and Jake Gyllenhaal. David Duchovny, none other than Mulder from The X-Files, was considered to play Batman for the second time, as he was also considered for Batman and Robin. That'd be great, wouldn't it, if Fox Mulder was actually mental, and the FBI just drove him mad, and the X-Files just drove him mad to the point where he just thought, I've got to become Batman. It's got to be done, Scully. I am becoming Batman. I'm sick of chasing the Jersey Devil. Now I'm chasing the Joker. Keanu Reeves was also considered for the role of Batman and even expressed interest in the press when the project was in development. He was also considered to play the Dark Knight in Batman Forever back in 1995.
Wow.
While Christian Bale won the part, Christopher Nolan liked Cillian Murphy's audition so much that he cast him as Dr. Jonathan Crane, also known as the Scarecrow. David S. Goyer mentioned in an interview that his favourite pre-audition choice for Batman was Jake Gyllenhaal, but that he was won over by Christian Bale after seeing his test. Seeking inspiration from Superman the movie and other blockbuster films of the late 70s and early 80s, Nolan based most of the production in England, specifically Shepperton Studios. A Batcave set was built there and measured 250 feet long, 120 feet wide and 40 feet high. Production designer Nathan Crowley installed 12 pumps to create a waterfall with 12,000 imperial gallons. Contrary to the previous Batman films in which the Batcave was realised as a combination of a live set and matte paintings, no visual effects were used in this film to show the Batcave. The entire Batcave is instead a massive full-scale set. Mentmore Towers was chosen from 20 different locations for Wayne Manor, as Nolan and Crowley liked its white floors, which gave the impression of the manor as a memorial to Wayne's parents. The building chosen to represent Arkham Asylum was the National Institute for Medical Research in northwest London. The St Pancras railway station and the Abbey Mills pumping stations were also used for Arkham's interiors. In the process of reinventing Batman, Nolan's universe debuted the Tumbler, the most dangerous and imposing version of the Batmobile ever, and to be fair, it needed to be reinvented, as this one looked like Batman took it on Pimp My Ride. 6 models of the Tumbler were built to scale in the course of 4 months. Following the scale model creation, a crew of over 30 people, including Crowley and engineers Chris Colvert and Annie Smith, carved a full-size replica of the Tumbler out of a large block of styrofoam in 2 months. The styrofoam model was used to create a steel test frame which had to stand up to several standards, have a speed of over 100 miles per hour, and go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5 seconds. It also needed to possess an incredible steering system to make sharp turns at city corners and also withstand a self-propelled launch of up to 30 feet. On the first jump test, the Tumbler's front end actually collapsed and had to be completely rebuilt. The entire design and development process of the Tumbler took 9 months and cost several $1 million. The score for Batman Begins was composed by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. Nolan originally invited Zimmer to compose the music, and Zimmer asked Nolan if he could invite Howard to compose as well, as they had always wanted to collaborate. The two composers came together on separate themes for the split personality of Bruce Wayne and his alter ego. Zimmer and Howard began composing in Los Angeles and moved to London, where they stayed for 12 weeks to complete most of their writing. Batman Begins opened on June 15, 2005 in the US and Canada. It grossed over $48 million in its opening weekend in North America, eventually grossing over $374 million worldwide. The film received highly positive reviews and is considered by many critics to be one of the best superhero films of the 2000s. It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Cinematography and 3 BAFTA awards. It was of course followed by The Dark Knight in 2008 and The Dark Knight Rises in 2012, which constitute what is now known as the Dark Knight Trilogy. Batman Begins is a film about holding on to empathy and compassion in a hostile city that has left those values behind. Early on in the film, we get a real sense of the impact Bruce's father Thomas Wayne had on him in the flashbacks we see. Thomas has such a strong moral compass and desire to help others and do the right thing. Bruce Wayne is taught from an early age the importance of looking after those less fortunate than you. The wonderful thing about Thomas Wayne is that he could have easily gone down the corrupt path of the other rich people in the city, but he chooses not to, meaning Bruce feels a real strong conviction to carry on his father's work. It's not easy, however, as Bruce becomes a lost and broken man and considers killing Joe Chill, the man who murdered his parents, at his trial. Rachel chastises Bruce in a fantastic scene, telling him his father would be ashamed. We do feel sorry for Bruce, however, with Christian Bale's fantastic performance portraying a lost young man who can no longer hold on to his father's teachings because he is so confused and broken. When Bruce flees Gotham to train and find a way to channel his anger, his mentor, Henry Ducard, or Ra's al Ghul, is constantly reinforcing the idea of revenge that Bruce is trying to get away from. This is a fascinating relationship because Ducard teaches Bruce so many valuable things and is a father figure, but ultimately their philosophies both hit a wall with the other. Bruce makes a brilliant comment about compassion, and it's lines like this that show his strong moral compass still shining through in the face of so much pressure by Ducard.
I'm no executioner.
Your compassion is a weakness your enemies will not share.
That's why it's so important. It separates us from them.
I love the philosophy Bruce stands by in this movie. It makes him so likeable. He takes control of his destiny, deliberately choosing not to take the easy option, which would obviously be to kill. If anyone still wonders why Batman doesn't kill, they clearly haven't seen Batman Begins. I mean, this film perfectly explains why Bruce feels such a strong conviction to never kill someone. There are several lines in the film about revenge and justice, and the difference between the two, and these ideas are so powerful and push the point home that although Bruce is a vigilante and at times violent, he is also a true hero who stands by his principles. Although Bruce is a haunted man, he is a very good man, trying his best with the cards he's been dealt. He just wants to be decent in a city of corruption. Batman Begins is a film about seeing the good in people. Bruce is determined to see the good in Gotham, and I think a lot of that optimism comes from his friendship with Alfred, who keeps him grounded. It's easily the best depiction of Bruce and Alfred's relationship. Michael Caine and Christian Bale show the characters' real affection for each other. The way they deliver their lines and share the scenes together is second to none. They have a fantastic bond, and Alfred is one of those people who constantly reminds Bruce that there is good left in Gotham. I love how much Alfred stands by Bruce in this movie. He supports his decision to be Batman. He doesn't try and get him to stop. He respects and realises the point of why Bruce is doing this. He's such a positive light in the film and refuses to ever lose faith in Bruce.
Why do we false? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
You still haven't given up on me.
Never.
Now I'll give up on you in Dark Knight Rises when I see a bloke with bigger muscles than you. Love you, Bruce. I have no idea why they changed Alfred and Bruce's relationship in Dark Knight Rises, but in this film it's perfect. Alfred is optimistic and wise. I really do feel like it's his support that gives Bruce the confidence to go through with becoming Batman. Batman Begins is also a film about fear. Obviously, I mean Scarecrow running around spraying people with fear gas, but I feel like it goes deeper than that. Bruce works to overcome his lifelong fear of bats and channel that fear into something he can use. As well as his fear of his parents' death being his fault, he ultimately manages to stare fear in its face and embrace it. The city of Gotham is living in fear, with crime bosses like Falcone and criminals such as Jonathan Crane thinking they have the city at its knees, scared to stand up to them and fight back. Batman's fearless move, where he takes in Falcone, I feel as a catalyst which begins to help Gotham confront its fear of crime. It gives Commissioner Gordon a surge of confidence and starts a shift that gives Gotham a sense of hope. Batman creates a resurrection in Gotham that continues in A Dark Knight, with the people finally fighting back against the criminals who used to think Gotham would fear them forever. Christian Bale is wonderful as Bruce Wayne. He's so good at conveying all the different stages of Bruce Wayne's story. His facial expressions are superb. There's so much going on behind Bruce's eyes, and it's at times a very reserved and contemplative performance. You constantly feel like he's thinking things over, trying to work out how to put Batman into practice in the best way possible. He is focused and determined. This is the first time in a series we really let the character of Bruce Wayne breathe and draw us in, and this movie proves that focusing on the character and not just a load of action can be just as compelling, if not more. Bale manages to capture Bruce Wayne's playboy act very well too. It's the first time we have seen Bruce actually make a conscious choice to throw people off the scent and never consider this selfish and wild young billionaire to ever be Batman. Bale manages to be very earnest when engaging with the people Bruce cares about, in the scenes in which Bruce talks to Rachel and Alfred, and also Commissioner Gordon when he's Batman. You can just see that glimmer of hope in Christian Bale's eye. Bruce's good heart just can't be contained. As Batman, I think he's fantastic. His suit is great to look at. Christian Bale's active dislike of his uncomfortable Batman outfit helped his performance as the Dark Knight, as he was perpetually in a foul mood when wearing it. Has there ever been a comfortable Batman suit?
No.
I think Nolan manages to shoot the nighttime scenes in this film in such a gritty comic book kind of way that in several moments remind me of how Batman looks in the comics, having him climb up walls and a child see him, or perching outside Commissioner Gordon's house, or standing on a building looking out at the city. This is Batman. I think people forget how much Nolan, despite bringing a human element and more realistic feel to his universe, was also loyal to the comics. Batman Begins has so many shots and moments that could be comic book panels, and I think they make Begins stand out from the other two Nolan films in a sense that there is a down and dirty, gritty feeling to the rain-soaked nighttime scenes of Batman Begins. This Gotham City at night is far closer to the comics than the Gotham of the Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. Nolan creates a great depiction of a corrupted, dirty and depressing looking city, and as I was saying earlier, Bale's Batman fits in perfectly and looks at home in his surroundings. There's a real street level feeling to this film, which I think disappears a little bit in the next two movies. Batman Begins is very much the most nighttime set of the Nolan trilogy. And back to Batman, I love Christian Bale's voice as Batman. I think people watch Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises and incorrectly remember that Bale sounded like a tit in Begins too. He didn't, he just didn't. I don't know what happened. Bale and Nolan stumbled upon the perfect Batman voice for him, and for some reason in the next movie, they thought, you know what, you know that voice we got for Batman, you know how we nailed it, we done it really good? Let's get rid of it. Let's make him sound like Linda Blair in The Exorcist meets the singer of Cavell Attack. That'll be good. I love how Bale sounds in his film. His Batman voice is disguised, cool and intimidating.
Falcone sent them to kill you.
Why?
You rattled his cage.
Of course, Bale gives us a preview of the voice of the next films in the moments in which he is shouting at criminals. However, I don't think this means he uses the same voice as the other films, because he does a loud raspy shout here. This time it's necessary, and it reminded me of the many times in the comics that Batman shouts at criminals. I feel like when he's trying to scare a criminal and interrogate them, that voice is fine. When it's how he talks normally, no mate, I can't be having that. Can't be having that. That's bonkers.
Sorry to disappoint.
Hey, Christian Bale, Christopher Nolan. You know you changed the Batman voice in Batman Begins and the suit? I've got a question for you. Cillian Murphy is suitably creepy as Jonathan Crane and the Scarecrow. It's definitely a role he was born to play. There's something extremely mysterious, creepy and seedy about him. And on some level, I don't even believe he's insane, he's just a complete and utter arse. But he's let it take him into some very nasty territory because of his selfishness and greed. Crane clearly wants to be able to control people, and he can't do that as the puny specimen he is, so Scarecrow appears to be more of an inferiority complex, taken to crazy levels. I love the scene where the Scarecrow fires gas at Batman and he remembers his parents' death. Such a comic book moment that left the geek in me in pure ecstasy. I do think there could have been more done with the Scarecrow in the film, and his defeat is kind of a cop-out. He really does take a second wheel to Ra's al Ghul, which is a shame because he never gets the chance to be Batman's true nemesis, and despite popping up in the next two films, never fulfills his potential as a legendary Batman movie villain. Now here's something that will probably stun you rigid. I quite liked Katie Holmes in Batman Begins. Well, you can't talk, look at the acting in your show. That shut him up. I think she's pretty good. She really does convey Rachel's desperation and frustration at the state of Gotham. She has a decent chemistry with Christian Bale. I mean, the way she looks at him, you could believe she loves him. I do think Maggie Gyllenhaal from Dark Knight is better, but I don't think Katie Holmes deserves all the hate she gets for this movie. It's not an amazing performance, but it's pretty good, and at the right moments she manages to make an impact. It's a very goody two-shoes performance, but it works because she's earnest, and Bruce needs those one or two people around him that convince him that good can still exist. Liam Neeson is great as Henry Ducard and Ra's al Ghul, the head of the League of Assassins, who you just cannot reason with. He has decided his way of dealing with crime is the best way, and no matter what, no one is going to change his mind. And what's his suggestion to deal with the crime in Gotham? Kill everyone, kill them all. Metallica album, kill them all. Kill the men, women and children. No wonder there'll be no crime committed. Of course you're going to solve that problem, Ra's al Ghul. There'll be no one alive to commit it. I've solved all the crime in Gotham City. And I've also turned it into a desolate wasteland with no one around to do anything. So I guess those plants and animals better behave, because if there's any crime, I'll wipe them out too.
Leave me in peace. Please go.
Neeson is suitably cold as the man who has seen it all and lost faith in giving justice a chance. His father-son relationship with Bruce is fascinating, and the back and forth between them is intense. I especially love the scene where, in Bruce's own house, Neeson is telling him he's going to wipe out Gotham. How ruthless can you get? He's literally in his house, telling him, I'm going to burn down your house, and the rest of the city. Savage. I love the final confrontation where Ra's sees Bruce in the Batman suit, and the two ideologies come head to head in an intense, fast-paced showdown on a speeding train. It's a fantastic culmination. Of course, there are two other iconic performances in the film from two iconic actors, Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon and Michael Caine as Alfred. As I mentioned, Alfred is more important to this film than Alfred had ever been, and Michael Caine offers such a real, honest and powerful performance. It really is like watching the Alfred of the comics finally come to life. Caine steals the show in any scene he is in, and at his advanced age added another stellar and monumental performance to his already legendary resume. Gary Oldman puts his heart and soul into the character of Commissioner Gordon. Oldman makes Gordon so likeable. Gordon is run down and almost broken, but he shows so much resilience and passion to not give up, and when Batman comes along it gives him a new lease of life to fight back against the crime in Gotham. Oldman brings charisma and life to Commissioner Gordon and does justice to a character that we have been waiting for years to see done correctly. Not only does he deliver, but he's almost as effective a protagonist as Batman. The genuine relationship from the comics between Batman and Gordon also begins here, and it's a joy to watch when you're a fan who had only ever seen Michael Keaton's Batman be a complete arsehole to the Commissioner. As I said, this movie has a fantastic culmination, and the ending is also great. Alfred and Bruce decide to rebuild the burned down Wayne Manor, which I think is a fantastic example of one of the film's ideas, that no matter how down in the dumps and how low life can get, it can always be rebuilt, and you can always find some good and hope, even when everything has quite literally crumbled to the ground. Ultimately, this movie was a huge achievement by Christopher Nolan. People's appetite for Batman was revived in this movie, and the film showed the possibilities to take this character into the modern day. Some say Batman Begins was simply a warm-up for The Dark Knight, which many call the greatest superhero movie ever made, but Batman Begins cannot be taken for granted. It's a masterful piece of work with some hard-hitting themes, fantastic performances, and a wonderful piece of direction from one of the greatest directors of our time. Batman Begins is indeed a superhero masterpiece. Batman Begins of course received overwhelmingly positive reviews from critics. The Rotten Tomatoes consensus reads, "Brooding and dark but also exciting and smart, Batman Begins is a film that understands the essence of one of the definitive superheroes." Roger Ebert, who gave mixed reviews to the previous films, and claimed in his review of Batman Returns that he did not believe noir worked in superhero films, said that this was the Batman movie he'd been waiting for, or more correctly, this is the movie he did not realise he was waiting for. USA Today's Mike Clark thought that Christian Bale performed the role of Batman as well as he did Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. Michael Wilmington of the Chicago Tribune believed that Nolan and Goya managed to comfortably mix the tormented drama and revenge motifs with light-hearted gags and comic book allusions. Tim Burton, the director of Batman 89, said that Nolan captured the real spirit that these kind of movies are supposed to have. When I did Batman 20 years ago, in 1989, it was a different time in comic book movies. You couldn't go into that dark side of comics yet. The last couple of years, that has become acceptable, and Nolan certainly got more to the root of what the Batman comics are about. A video game based on the film was released on June 14th, 2005, and was met with generally average reviews. Personally, I have a lot of nostalgia for this game. I remember I used to have it, God knows what happened to it, probably swapped it to buy sweets, but I remember really enjoying it. The graphics are pretty decent, and the gameplay was an early indication of how good Batman games would go on to be when we eventually got to Arkham Asylum. To me, this game was very faithful to the movie, with the theme of fear running through the game. This was also the first game, at least to my knowledge, where you could properly glide and ambush opponents as Batman, so there were a lot of firsts. It's also fun to use Batman's many gadgets to strike fear into your opponents. The idea was a very good one, but for me the villains are far too difficult to defeat, leaving the game quite frustrating. Sadly, the game is a little clunky to play today and feels a little rushed, but overall I think it's an okay game that I certainly used to enjoy more back in the day, but it's still worth a look if you are curious. So there you have it, my in-depth look at Batman Begins from 2005. Thanks for watching everyone, and next time I'll be moving on to one of the most popular and beloved superhero movies of all time, 2008's The Dark Knight. What do you think of Batman Begins? Let me know, do you love it, do you hate it, do you think it's overrated, do you think it's a bit underrated compared with the other Nolan films? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please hit that subscribe button. I have many more superhero reviews planned, and I also do reviews of retro movies on my channel, so there should be something here for all film fans. And thanks for watching everyone again. I'm Jim and I'm obsessed with movies, and I don't just want you film fans, I want to make you obsessed with movies just as much as I am. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. No, I will not review the Batman 60s movie. It's shit.